Hello everybody, welcome back to Game Bro Station, and once again, the Week in Review.
Isn't that exciting, everyone? Looking forward to talking about these subjects we got lined up for you.
Oh yeah, for the days of July 14th. So as we normally do, here's the games that came out this last week. 20XX came out on the PS4 and Switch on July 10th, and then the next day it came out for the Xbox One. MXGP Pro came out for the PS4, Xbox One, and PC on July 10th. Shining Resonance Refrain came out for the PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC on July 10th. Captain Toad Treasure Tracker came out on the Switch and the 3DS on July 13th. Earthfall came out for the PS4, Xbox One, and PC on July 13th. And Hotel Transylvania 3 Monsters Overboard came out for the PS4, Xbox One, Switch, PC on July 13th. And a big one that some people have been talking about, Octopath Traveler came out on the Switch on July 13th. And those are the video games that came out this past week.
I had no idea they were still making movie licensed console video games. I thought they all went straight mobile these days. Cheaper, more effective. Good for the whales.
Any of you guys? No, not me, not today.
So moving on from that, time for video game news. Not too many big ones. Well, there is a big one, but we'll get to that soon. In the meantime, real quick note, a audio leaker that went to the private behind closed doors Cyberpunk 2077 showing had released the audio that he took, which, if you don't know, at the beginning of the behind the closed doors stuff for press, video game press, you know, people like Young and whomever, they requested, as is kind of standard in the game industry, please don't record anything, don't take video, pictures, etc. But this one dude on this channel, he was like, oh, I'll be clever and I'll just record the audio. And then I'll clean up the audio, and then I'll release the audio in a video. And the video was released on YouTube. You know what happened. CD Projekt Red found that, immediate copyright strike that, and took that shit down in like 30 minutes. But he was basically trying to defend himself by saying like they didn't say not to do audio, you know, game journalism isn't like it used to be. You always have to listen to what the companies want, and you're a sheeple, and really weird and really bad defense like phrases of like trying to be like, this is what I did and I wasn't wrong at all, even though clearly I was.
Bad? I'm not bad. I'm the good guy here. He just doesn't get it.
It sounds like this guy doesn't quite understand the concept of embargo.
No, it doesn't sound like
It's
it.
actually very common in the film industry. Whenever like they have pundits or reviewers see a movie, get an early screening of a movie that's coming out, usually they want to do that to kind of create like a social media buzz where you just write a couple words, give your impressions, but they have like certain embargoes, usually like a few days before a movie release, usually closer to the embargo of the release date. That's usually a red flag saying that the company is not confident in whatever they're releasing. I can't quite say that's the case for video games when it comes to like conferences and things like that. But from the way I can tell is like if a company is presenting something and they're saying, by the way, please don't share this, we're putting an embargo on this, this is all production, we just want to get your in-person general impressions, please don't share this. That sounds pretty fair to me that a company would ask for that. Legally, they are allowed to. They are allowed to have embargoes. I mean, because we've had arguments like this before where if you want to take these YouTuber journalists seriously and they want to be a good source of information to people who are genuinely fascinated and intrigued by video games, you got to be proven a trustable outlet by these companies. And if you can build good relationships with these companies, they'll give you more stuff later on down the line. They'll let you get a little bit more behind the scenes stuff and give you content to get your fellow fans excited for whatever product you may release. But if you keep trying to break their trust, they're going to be a less inviting. They'll
blacklist you. They'll straight up be like, yeah, this person never again.
It's a downward spiral that I don't think is going to favor anyone. So
no.
Again, I have no idea what's going on here, but based on what you told me, it sounds like this person just tried to find loopholes and just
Yeah.
wanted to score the big scoop. He's like, well, no one
Yeah.
else is going to cover this, and it's going to be my big story. People are going to remember me for this.
Yeah, and that kind of was part of what he said later on in it, actually. He was kind of like, no one else gave me credit for doing it. I'm like, yeah, of course someone gave you credit for it. They politely asked you, don't do the thing, and you did the thing. And you were the only one. You're not the celebrity here, you're the complete asshole. Because the thing is, like, when a company asks you, hey, don't record anything, that's a blanket statement of just don't be shitty. Just don't... They said no pictures, no video, and he was trying to be clever just with audio. But it's like, don't do it. Because his whole thing, like you said, was like, oh, I'll do this and that. This will be what people remember me for and everything. And he even brought that up. It was like, oh, I didn't get credit. Someone else downloaded our thing, ripped it, and put it elsewhere, and then it blew up. And yeah, okay, that person did that, but at the same time, you shouldn't have recorded audio in the first place. Because he was like, oh, we don't have to send an NDA or anything. And okay, sure, you don't have to sign paperwork. Just, no. That's not how this works. If they ask you that, don't be shitty. It's that simple. Because if you are, then they'll blacklist you, you won't get invited, and then you'll just be cut off. And who's to say they won't be like, oh, hey, so-and-so company, this person's a problem. You might want to keep an eye on them.
Yeah, you can't trust this person.
Yeah. And then suddenly you don't get invited to anything.
Yeah.
If I was invited to a thing, and they asked me don't do anything, I wouldn't do it. And I wouldn't try to find loopholes to just do a thing. The moral of the story, kids, if someone asks you something and they're being polite about it and everything, just be nice in response and respect the wishes.
Of course!
So speaking of responding to people nicely, a whole pile of shit happened with the Guild Wars 2 community. Essentially, one of the ex-developers now, by the name of Jessica Price, she wrote this article about how on characters in RPGs and everything. And one of the Guild Wars 2 community members, person that's played it, streamed it, kind of somewhat well known in their community and everything, he was just trying to respond. This is a good read. Here's my thoughts on characters in RPGs and everything. And this was on Twitter and everything. And then shit hit the fan more and more because she basically responded very hostilely to him. She brought up gender issues and gender equality out of the blue when he didn't bring that up at all in what he said or his original response to her article, essentially. And it just snowballed from there.
So we're going to give our opinions on that, huh?
Yeah.
Well, Jared, it's been a good run. Almost 200 subscribers. Because no matter what opinion we give, we are going to get crucified on either side. So it was good working with you, Jared. Good working with you.
Matt.
Hey, Jared, can you give me a ride home? Thanks, man.
But
so yes, I have been hearing about this for over a week now. We've gotten a lot of details, sort of, on what's happening. Now, I personally have never played Guild Wars 2. I don't know anything about Jessica Price on a personal developer level, or the guy who originally gave his opinion on narrative in MMORPGs.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm seeing this purely as an outsider looking in.
Yeah.
And it's been very saddening to see what kind of outrage is happening around this. And I have my own personal opinion on it. This doesn't necessarily reflect Jared's opinion. Quick disclaimer here. We're all human. We all have our different forms of perception. I looked at the tweets. I looked at her tweets, his tweets, and a few other people's responses. And I've come to my own conclusions.
Yep.
So this is purely my opinion. Personally, I think what happened with Jessica Price is that she expressed that she was having some issues in the work office, saying that because she is a woman, she feels like she's being downplayed or being commanded over and various things like that. And I do not believe that this guy who gave his opinion on narrative storytelling, I looked through his tweets and I did not find anything there that objectifies her as a woman. He was just saying his perception when coming to narrative telling in this said genre, that he disagrees with her and believes that there's a different approach to it. He acknowledged her opinion, though. He said, I thought what you said was interesting, and while I disagree slightly, he put it in asterisks, quotes, I think he meant quotes. I didn't see any red flags there, but then she kind of retorted saying like,
she called him an asshat.
well, just before that, she kind of did like a roll eyes, it's like, way to tell me to work things eternally, my dude, roll eyes.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the weird part where it kind of de-escalated, where he replied in a sense that he feels like he's been insulted more than just that. I still think he's right. He was allowed to give his opinion, but then she just kind of snapped at that point.
Yeah.
And I understand, everyone's talked about this. Layman, Yongye, many other YouTubers. And one of the biggest pulls for this is that a lot of media journalist groups like Kotaku, Polygon, seem to be siding with her, not really addressing the actual tweet that he gave and all that stuff. And I'm not discounting women in the workforce. That does exist. People do have that equal complexity thing going on. But again, I'm not a woman, so that's a whole other... Hi, Mr. Peanut Butter. I know you're not a woman either. You're Mr. Peanut Butter.
Fool me once, shame on me, but fool me twice, fiddle-dee-dee.
Anyway, the point I'm trying to say here is like, I feel like there might be a deeper psychological issue going on with Jessica Price. Because a lot of people have been just kind of saying like, maybe part of her kind of snapped where she kept getting so much criticism throughout her whole life. I have no idea how old she is. I have no idea how long she's been in the industry for. I think 15 years maybe. I'm not too sure. But eventually just something snapped in her head. Something triggered all these memories or experiences that she exhibited. And she just lost it. And I think she probably didn't have a good way to ventilate her frustration with the world. Maybe she didn't have the right sort of friends or companions to really outlet herself on these issues. And it just went completely nuts. The boiler is leaking and burning the surrounding area. I personally think she probably needs help in a sense. I'm not saying she's crazy, but what I'm saying is on a psychological level, I think she needs to let off some steam. She needs to really evaluate her life and think about more than just how she perceives this whole situation, and think about more of like how others are perceiving her. Who have different perspectives. Even if their perspective she doesn't agree with, she needs to consider looking at it another way. Now, I'm not saying that's the answer to everything, because the other part of the conversation about this whole Jessica Price thing is that ArenaNet CEO fired her along with this other guy. I forget his name.
I think it was Peter.
He just kind of casually defended her, didn't really name drop or insult the community.
No.
But she did, and I don't agree with her or the guy saying like, oh, this is a private Twitter thread. And it's like, it's Twitter. None of that is private. Anyone can look up what you... I mean, just look at politics nowadays. I'm not going to get heavy into it, but that is pretty much the presidential log line, or whatever you call it now. So, and it's the internet. Once you put something out there, it's out there forever. And if it was private, you had to set it private, and you wouldn't be talking to the community. I agree with many of these pundits. She labeled herself as a narrative game developer for ArenaNet. So therefore, she represents whatever the company might stand for whatever she may say. And I even looked through the thread, and people were like, I don't want to play ArenaNet games if their employees are as angry as Jessica Price. So even if you spin it in a way saying like, no, I represent me, ArenaNet, they're their own thing, this is my opinion, you're still part of that company. You're still gonna be vicariously their ID. And I don't entirely agree with having her be let go so quickly, so fast, but she certainly did not help her case.
No. I agree with what you've said, because in the example of if I was having a really shitty day, stressed out, tired, ready to snap at anybody, and if I did, and I had the jacket I wear that I got from my company that has its logo on it, if someone sees me in that moment snapping, however small or big it is, and sees that logo, they might email the company, they might tweet the company, they might do something in some way to inform the company, hey, one of your employees went mental one of these days or something or other at this person or that. Even when you're off the clock, you do represent that company. Once you're hired, you're a part of that company. It doesn't matter if you're not wearing a shirt with the logo or a jacket with it or any logo at all that indicates it. It doesn't matter if you have a Twitter and you think it's private for some reason or this and that, or your Facebook and whatnot, or any social media really. It doesn't matter. When you work for a company, you represent that company. Now, that's not to say if you have a bad day, don't, let it eat you alive, but you have to always consciously keep that in your mind, because if you don't, then something like this happens. And in my honest opinion, that's why she, and unfortunately the Peter guy, got let go. Even if they weren't on the clock, on their Twitters it says that they were ArenaNet or Guild Wars 2 devs. That's enough to be like, hey, this is where I work. If they were tweeting things about where they work, that's enough to be like, this is, that's the thing of this is who I work for. And if you go off like this, whether you're on the clock or not, whether you're promoting it too much or not, you're still a part of that company. You're still representing it, even if you're not actively saying or waving the flag in front of someone's face saying that you are. You have to always self-monitor. Not everyone does it, not everyone thinks it, but most people do.
And I think the other thing that also kind of makes the situation very controversial as well is that, as we may have mentioned before, one of her retorts to the guy who gave her criticism later on played something that some people are calling the woman card, where she claims that what he said was just because she was a woman, you could talk down on me and all that and tell me how to do my job. Mm-hmm. Now, that's another tricky subject.
Yeah.
And we've mentioned that before. Women do have to battle this gender stereotype all the time. Even men have to go through it as well. But you gotta pick your battles wisely. When you see sexism clearly and contextually,
call it out.
Call it out. That's not tolerable. You shouldn't be doing that, especially if what you're doing has no relevance to it by any means. But he didn't mention anything at all about her being a woman.
Nope.
He would have probably had the same exact response if it was a male game developer. And she played that on him, and now she's running with it. And what's a shame about it is that I don't think there's any merits to it. She's taking it, playing herself as the victim, and claiming that the community is ganging up on her because she is a woman. And now, because she was fired, she spoke to with Polygon, I think.
Polygon,
and
Kotaku,
said that she told recruiters and professors that she knows to steer people away from ArenaNet. Like, anyone who's applying jobs there, tell them to not go there because these people are horrible, women-hating SOBs, whatever. Mm-hmm. And it's blatantly, you can see the hypocrisy there of how she perceives herself being like everyone's ganging up on her. So instead, she's going to have everyone gang up on them.
Yeah.
And to me, that's a whole, like, you're just stooping to their level. In her mind.
Yeah.
An eye for an eye. Mm-hmm. Oh, look, everyone's blind.
Yeah.
So I think it's really going to hurt people's causes on people trying to push equality. And dare I say, feminism. Man, woman, equal standings. But if you're going to bring up false claims like that, it's going to be harder for people like us to take you seriously if these false claims keep coming up and you keep pushing this agenda. And I mean, that's the other thing too. It's like, if you're going to force your beliefs on someone, expect a forced resistance.
Yeah.
You got to introduce whatever your beliefs or your ideals by gently, more inviting. Make people curious about the way you think of things or perceive things. Don't shove it down our throats. Otherwise, we're just going to spit it out and ignore you.
Yeah.
And that just takes away the credentials from that.
I'm only hoping that with all this whole running with the thing that's happening, that it doesn't hurt the game, the community, or the company too much.
I think they'll be fine, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of the community and the game people seem to be backing them. I can't quite say exactly why all the game journalisms are going against ArenaNet and siding with her. I honestly don't know the inside workings of that. But there's even like other like former media and game developers I saw on YouTube talk about this, and they were women as well, saying like, oh yeah, this was not the case of women being oppressed. This is just someone playing victim here. All these people who seem pretty stable-minded are saying like, okay, what she did was wrong. But all these journalists are siding with her and not even analyzing his tweet. Yeah. Just going off of her words and her words alone. I don't know, to me, that's where the real suspicion is for me. Like, I don't know why that is. I'm sure we'll find out more later on. But again, we have nothing against women at all. We're all into the equal stuff, but again, you gotta pick your battles. You can't just use something and straw man an issue that's actually going on to back up your claim, which doesn't have any context to it. Yeah. It's just gonna end up hurting us in the long run, so yeah. That's my whole take on it.
It's like you said, the whole pick your battles thing and whatnot. Because clearly that wasn't even the quote-unquote argument. It was literally just about video games.
It was about
MMOs and characters and whatnot. And then somehow this just all erupted like crazy. So on that lovely note, that's the video game news for this week. Matt, movie news time.
Alright, cool. Well, since we spent so much time talking about these controversial topics, we figure we're gonna just breeze through what's happening in the movie news real quickly.
No, light speed is too slow. Light speed too slow? Yes, we're gonna have to go right to ludicrous speed.
Indiana Jones 5 has been pushed back a year. And we're also moving forward Mary Poppins a couple days in December.
Oh.
And by the time Indiana Jones 5 is going to come out, Harrison Ford is going to be almost 80 years old. Isn't that concerning?
Is it bad that the first thought that comes to mind is the Indiana Jones theme playing when he's sitting inside a retirement home?
Oh, man.
Like, with that said, I'm not trying to shit on Harrison Ford. I love the dude. I enjoy the fact that he, like, one of his hobbies is he just gets in planes and flies.
Lawrence Kasdan's son, who I believe wrote the script for Solo, a Star Wars story, you know, everyone's favorite Star Wars movie. I believe he is actually rewriting the script for Indiana Jones 5, and I think that might be part of the reason why they're pushing it back a year. And pretty much everyone is concerned because, again, Harrison Ford is getting pretty long in the tooth. I mean, you could argue he's already long in the tooth. We don't want him to risk his life and Tom Cruise it for an Indiana Jones movie that he may or may not even really want to do in the first place.
Yeah.
But the one thing I want to mention real quick here is that December, because Mary Poppins is being pushed ahead a little bit, it seems like December is getting pretty stacked. Let me tell you exactly what's coming out. We're getting Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse on December 14th. Also, Mortal Engines, the same date. Then December 19th, we got Mary Poppins Returns. And then a couple days later, we get Bumblebee, Aquaman, Holmes and Watson, and Alita Battle Angel. And so, December is getting pretty fucking packed, dude.
And that's like, what, 6 movies already?
Man, maybe a little bit more.
7?
I'm sure there's going to be more coming down the line because December's still got some times away. But a lot of pundits are saying they're very concerned about December and feel like some dates might have to be moved around. Because Alita Battle Angel, that's going to be destroyed.
Yeah.
And I know people like to hate on Hollywood adapting anime. I get that, sort of. But I'm morbidly curious of how that movie will look. Yeah. As a standalone movie. I don't care about the source material. I just want to see how it looks. Robert Rodriguez doesn't have quite the best visual track record, in my opinion. So I'm quite curious to see how he does with this. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Yeah, it looks cool. But I'm also curious about Mortal Engine. It looks kind of goofy and silly. It's a Peter Jackson film, I think. So I want to check that out, but Spider-Man comes out instead. So, great, I'm going to see that. You got Mary Poppins Returns. You got Bumblebee. You got Aquaman. I'm excited for Aquaman. I want to see Jason Momoa kick some ass as a weird water man. I am concerned, and I feel like they're going to have to move some dates around if some of these movies, not the Disney ones, 'Cause Disney's fine. They're always rolling in that cash. But some of the other smaller films, they might need to rethink their release strategy soon. Otherwise, they're going to be gobbled up by a little spoonful of sugar. Shut up, Jared.
So that's the news this week in review. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you had fun. Hope we entertained you. Hope, hope, hope.
Yes, and don't yell at us. This is just our opinions. Please let us know your opinions on anything we talked about in the comment section below. Let's have a discussion. And remember, folks, it's only a discussion until name calling is introduced. Because we just want to hear all sides.
Remember, everyone, don't be sorry, be better. To be continued, everybody.
Oh, we had a good run on our channel. Okay, bye, Jared. Bye.
Matt?